this right here, you bunch of prima donna ballerina mother.
Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. This is our weekly MLB series preview betting show that we do with Troy West regularly, and we've had a very successful year in these calls so far. Today is Monday, July 14th, but of course this is the All-Star break. There's no games coming up this week, so right now we're going to take a look ahead, starting with the upcoming series this weekend. Troy, thanks for being back with us.
Hey, thanks a lot, Pete. I appreciate it. You know, I think you and I both have had a lot of success on these calls through the first half of the season. I expect nothing more in the second half,
Right.
Pete. I really like betting the second half of baseball. I truly feel like, you know, the contenders are going to come out and the pretenders are going to fall away and start bringing up a lot of their minor league systems. So I think there's a ton of value for gamblers out there in the second half of this season.
All right. Well, I like our little formula here where I identify series that I think have some value, get your thoughts, and then overall, we've had a profitable year in these calls. And but the important thing is how you've done at your site. Tell everyone how you've done at your site in baseball this year, because I know it's been very good.
It's very good, Pete. We had an outstanding May, outstanding June, and so far here in July, it's been a winning July. We'll see how it finishes out, but we've been hot here the last 4 or 5 days. Started out a little cold in July, but no, Pete, it's just been complete consistency. We've been winning month in and month out. You get the best customer service, I believe, in the industry. I really encourage people to come check out allplayswin.com.
The first series from the upcoming weekend is, I want to get your take on this. Now, if you've been having a good June and July, then I know you haven't made too many picks on Colorado, because Colorado has been awful in June and July. The worst team in baseball to bet on these past 6 weeks, like minus 37% ROI. And this weekend they're going on the road at Pittsburgh, and Colorado is also the worst home team in, the worst road team in baseball, minus 22.5% ROI on the road on the year. That's dead last, and that is an awful number. And they're going into Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is a team that I've been high on for the past bunch of weeks. They had a very profitable June and July. They were plus 20% in June, plus 2.5% in July. They've also had very good numbers at home, plus 7.5% ROI at home on the year overall. So on paper, this is looking like a no-brainer value on Pitt series, and I think it is. What do you think, Troy?
Yeah, no, I'll go with Pittsburgh as well, Pete. You know, they're really starting to get it together with their starting pitching staff. You know, Charlie Morton, he goes on that Saturday game. You know, he's 5-9, but his ERA is getting lower and lower each start he comes out, and I like that matchup on Saturday. I think Colorado is at that point where, you know, they're looking to trade. They're looking in the trade talks with Tulowitzki and other guys. They seem to have thrown in the towel. Jeff Locke goes later on in that series. He's been much more consistent. I think Pittsburgh's going to make a push here in the second half. I think they're going to be a great bet. Obviously, we know Colorado's a bad bet, so I do think it's a no-brainer that Pittsburgh at least gets 2 out of 3 in that series.
All right, and then the Mets go into San Diego this weekend, and we know the deal with San Diego this year, right? Epic under trender. 68% unders on the year so far overall, and actually just 64% unders at home, but still that's a huge under trend. The Mets are kind of a light-hitting team with pretty decent starting pitching. They're just 50-50 on their totals and actually 56% overs on the road, but I think going into San Diego here, I just see them as kind of light hitting again with decent starting pitching, not at all enough to break that or challenge that San Diego under trend. I think it probably continues, right?
No, I would agree with you once again, Pete. We're in agreement on these first two. I think that is going to be an under. Some of these guys in San Diego are so undervalued that, you know, the way Tyson Ross has pitched this year, the guy is so darn consistent. A lot of these young pitchers that San Diego's brought up have been outstanding as well. And we know they can't hit the ball. We know it's a pitcher-friendly part. You know, I got to think that that's an under bet. You know, like you said, the Mets pitching guys like Dylan G have surprised people. You know, Jacob deGrom's been outstanding. So, no, I think in that series, Pete, you're going to look at some unders. I think at least 2 or 3 in that series go under.
All right, yeah. The only thing that makes me nervous about these San Diego unders is you never know when the market might make a radical adjustment down. But I think for now, we have to keep going with them. All right, and then I got 2 series that I'm not exactly sure about. I'm kind of leaning towards them. Not exactly sure if I want to go on the record with them. We'll see what you have to think, what you have to say about it. It's Texas at Toronto and KC at Boston. Now, start with Texas at Toronto. I'm thinking about Toronto here, and this is more of a fade of Texas, right? Because Texas has been absolutely awful this year. They're now minus 19.8% ROI overall in the year, which now officially makes them dead last. They've overtaken Boston, overtaken Tampa Bay as the worst bet in baseball, and June and July is where it got particularly ugly for Texas. So I'm very happy to bet against them right now. Toronto, you know, I'm not exactly sure, though, if they can be relied on to get wins. They should be a pretty solid favorite. They're basically even on the year at plus 0.5% ROI, but June and July was actually pretty bad. They were like minus 20% in June or July, but they have been good, and again, it might not take that much to get value against Texas. Will Toronto turn it around the first series? in the second half? Not exactly sure. What do you think?
No, I do think they will be.
Okay.
I think this pitching staff's got guys that are veterans. You know, R.A. Dickey's been around plenty. You got guys like Drew Hutchinson, who's having a pretty darn good season. Mark Burley, he likes pitching down the stretch. I think this lineup will turn it back on. I'm not necessarily sure they'll win the division, but I do think, and this is a team with the way the division's been, nobody's been consistent. You know, look at even Baltimore right now in first. This team doesn't have great pitching either. So I think it's anybody's division. I think Toronto will be in the mix at the end. I think they will have some value, and I think they will make a push down at the end of the stretches this season.
All right, so you would lean Toronto in this series as well?
Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
so I'll go on official public record taking Toronto here. Thanks, Trey, for the advice. And then KC at Boston, you know, and this is Boston's kind of like the opposite of Oakland. They're kind of like a very consistently, systematically overvalued team. They're minus 16.5% ROI in the first half. It's a very solid fade, third worst in baseball. And they've been very consistent month after month after month, kind of like minus 13% every month, bad at home, on the road. And so this is basically a fade of Boston as much as it is a play on KC. KC's not, you know, not a team of world beaters, but they are a team that can have some value, especially when they go on the road. They're actually plus 11% ROI on the road this year. And, you know, they slumped in July, but they had a great June. I'm thinking, will Boston continue to be overvalued in the second half, starting with this series? I'm thinking maybe yes, and maybe we take KC here. What do you think?
This particular series, I will pass on. This Boston team has driving me crazy. You know, you saw them against Houston. They had some great games, and they had some bad games. This has been kind of the Boston all year. You got to remember, this is the pitching staff that took them to the World Series. You get guys like John Lester, Jake Peavy, Clay Buchholz, John Lackey, four really good starting pitchers. So inconsistent. One day they show up, one day they don't. So it's the type of team that I typically just try to stay the hell away from. Right. They can be overvalued. I do see where they're overvalued plenty of times throughout the course of the year. But they're a team that I typically just stay away from, and I'll stay away from them again in this series.
All right. Thanks so much, Troy. I'm going to pass on that series too. Thanks to your advice. Thanks so much. We'll talk again very soon.